Hello, folks. Thanks again for tuning in to the Britt Kanawha West Hancock Athletics Podcast. This is episode 94, November 8th, 2023. And tonight I have Lori Tlach, now known as Lori Kelly, on the podcast with me. Lori is one of the most decorated runners in Britt West Hancock history from the fall of 2003 through the spring of 2007. So I'm excited to dig into that with Lori. How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Good. She's up in Minnesota and just put the kids to bed, and her fingers are crossed that one of them doesn't make an appearance tonight, but that's all right if they do. So, before we get to Lori and possibly one of her children, I'm gonna hit my sponsors. I have 17 of them tonight, so thanks to all my sponsors for giving to the Sanger Legacy Fund. We have Daniel's Auto Collision in Charles City, the Britt Food Center, Kelly Real Estate, Window World of Mason City, Nick Schmidt, Lifetime Nut Covers, Swenson's Do It Best Hardware Store, Triple B's Food Trucks, the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise, Levi Dunn Trucking, Jeff and Becky Nielsen, Kathy and Doug Zool, Chuck Boozman, Lori's former coach, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, and White Barn Picket Fence. So again, thanks to those sponsors for giving to the Legacy Fund. Money given to the Legacy Fund is used for the West Hancock Hall of Fame. We give scholarships every year to graduating seniors. We support any athletic or activity or school funds or needs that there are at West Hancock and other places where Bob and Linda Sanger were passionate about. And hopefully after tomorrow morning, we'll know that West Hancock football is going to another title game, and we'll help pay for plaques and awards for the boys and the coaches going to that game. If you want to give, you can go to sangerstrong.com. It is that time of the year where you can think about some tax deductible giving. You can go to sangerstrong.com to do that. Or if you want to sponsor the podcast, get a hold of me. Way back when, 50 episodes ago, I talked to current Iowa Hawkeye football player Josef Smith. That was episode 44. I'll have that link posted on the post I put out online with this one with Lori tonight. So make sure you check that out from 50 episodes ago. All right, here we go. Lori Kelly, aka formerly Lori Tlach. For those of you who remember her from her West Hancock days, she's a Tlach. So tell us a little bit, Lori, about where you're at these days, what's keeping you busy, your family, job, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm now in southern Minnesota, just north of Austin, Minnesota, in the small town Blooming Prairie. So it's right in between Austin and Owatonna. And it's a small town about the size of Britt. Class size is around 60, 70. And they're actually the Awesome Blossoms are their mascot. So it's kind of interesting. Nice. I'm married to David Kelly, and he's from Josef, Iowa. So another smaller school that we didn't play with too much, but I know we went to a wrestling meet down in Josef. So got in the area a little bit. And then I have 3 boys. Tyler is 7, Andrew is 5, and Kyle is 3. So they keep us busy. Nice. And then I am on my 12th year at Hormel in the accounting department, and I'm now in the credit area. So work on a lot of the AR side of accounting.
Good. And how's the family doing back in Britt?
They're doing good. It's been a great fall. They're just wrapping up some of their tillage work, but they're doing really well.
Good. One of the stories I wanted to tell tonight, your sister Julie was a year ahead of me in school. And one day, my sophomore year, it was the one day my mom, who's literally right over here in the living room, she was substituting for Peg Eisman in the office. And your sister Julie came up to me and asked if I wanted to go to prom with her. And I said yes. And then that was, and towards the end of the school year, and I can't remember the timing exactly, but she asked if I wanted to help the Tlach farming crew bale hay and pick rocks one day. I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to try to impress the girl I'm going to prom with or whatever. And didn't account for the fact that my allergies were so bad that within minutes of baling hay and doing all that, I couldn't even hardly see because everything was just puffing up. And then they took us in for a meal for dinner, and it was like 7-course farm meal.
Oh yeah, you always got fed really well.
And I'm like, man, that's pretty nice of them to do this. And they're like, we have this every night. Like, it's just like, like I'm used to pizza 5 nights a week, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was the one and only time I picked rock and baled hay because it was not worth the not being able to breathe or see for a couple days. So
Yeah, they always got the good crew from Britt, some good football players out to help them square bale hay. So
glad them and not me. So how do you get back to Britt very often?
yeah, we tried. I mean, it's only an hour and a half from here, so we try to get back about once a month, I would say. Seems like we hit some more times in the winter or the fall. Try to get my kids on the farm just to get that great experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and they get some cousin time on the farm, so it's fun. I enjoy going back.
Yep. So this is an athletics podcast, but I do want to talk a little bit about you were pretty big in the FFA world and agriculture and stuff. When I was searching up stuff on you to put my notes together, it was mostly FFA and fair and 4-H stuff. And then I found some track and cross country stuff. So before we get into sports, I was just curious, what was that like for you growing up in all that stuff out on the farm and at the fair?
Yeah, so I think like my family and I we were really involved in the fair and 4-H growing up. We showed the livestock. We did cattle and pigs at the county fair and then the state fair. So that really was our summer, was getting ready for the fairs and enjoying those weeks at the fair. But really looking back, I think it's really all of like the leadership that came with that and the citizenship of volunteering around the community within our club and at the fair, and then really just committing to it. I mean, we were up washing steers and combing them morning and night. So I think it's just all those little things you look back at and think that really did develop me as the person I am. So
Yeah, as I was searching, I was like, man, there's a ton of stuff on Lori Tlach and your brothers and your sister on all that stuff. And I was a city kid, you know, pizza place and whatnot, so I never got to experience any of that. So
yeah.
so you ran cross country for 3 years and then track all 4 years. So we're going to jump into your experiences as one, like I said, one of the most decorated runners in school history. But you told me when I was prepping for the show, like, I'm going to save you some time. I didn't go out for cross country my freshman year, and I never asked why, so I saved it for tonight. Why didn't you go out that first year?
So it was in Garner. So we still split Garner and West Hancock together while I was in high school. And I didn't know, I first of all really didn't even know what cross country was. And I also didn't know anybody on the team. So my friends were all going out for volleyball. So I just went out for volleyball and I enjoyed it. But I think after my freshman year of track, I decided I probably should pursue my running career a little bit more than my volleyball career.
Did one of the coaches coax you into that or convince you?
The cross country coach definitely talked to me during the track season that I need to be going out for cross country. And I mean, I couldn't disagree with it. So
yeah. Not even with Boozman though, did he have anything to do with it?
Not really. I don't remember that conversation with Boozman. I think we all knew after my freshman cross or track season that I probably was going to do cross country. And I also found that I really enjoyed running a distance. I mean, before my freshman track year, I ran in junior high and I did distance like distance events in junior high, and I was successful, but I wasn't really training or knew how to run distance. I was just running off of talent, truly. So
Yeah, just starting here, got to end there, and just get there.
yeah, yep.
Yep. So your freshman year, we'll start with track, which was 2004. Coach Chuck Boozman was the head coach at the time. You guys placed 9th in Class 1A that year. The 4x4 team, I found in my research, won the state title. We were talking before we hit record how we're getting a little bit older, and I'm like, I totally forgot the 4x4 team won it. That would have been my junior year. It's just, can't remember everything. And you ran in the 800 and the 1500 that season. You took 17th in the 1500 with a time of 5:16.85. And you were 23rd in the 800 with a time of 2 minutes 33 seconds or 2:33.49. You got down to state as a freshman. 2 events. And again, you said you enjoy running distance, which is a sentence I've never personally said out loud before, except for when I'm quoting other people, but good for you. What was it like getting down to state 2 events as a freshman, running with you had Angie Pritchard, Amber Hejlik, who's going to be on the podcast, Sarah Swanson already has, Sarah Everett, Holly DeGoose, Allison Segrist, Mary Mallon, Bree Lushin. What are some memories you have from that first high school season running track?
Yeah, so I think I just remember the seniors were pretty focused. You know, you had Angie Pritchard and Amber Hejlik, and I mean, even Ellen Ing, she always brought a lot of energy to practice. And then I also, Julie did, my sister did track as well that year. So it was a pretty motivated senior class that really tried to lead the way, and they had goals to accomplish. I mean, I think they knew they wanted to run the 4x4 and do well on it. And Angie was very dedicated to her hurdles at the time. And I think she helped the shuttle hurdle relay team get down there. So practice was pretty structured from the very beginning. And I think just they had high goals. So I just kind of went under their wing and set high goals for myself. I know one goal we set kind of as a team was to get the 4x8 down to state, and that was something we just missed out on. So I know it's something my sister always brings up, that she wished we made it to state in the 4x8. But and then I really making it down to state as a freshman. I mean, I kind of got lucky with the districts we were in, that there wasn't a big distance talent. So I really got in with the placing wise, but I don't think my times maybe would have qualified as much, because I was a pretty maybe above average runner as a freshman, but I wasn't really to like an elite level trying to place for medals at state. When you said the 800, 23rd place, I still remember I was in the slow heat of the 800, and as a freshman, I really didn't know a lot. I pretty much just ran the races I was in, and I had a competitive enough drive that I was just gonna hang on as long as I can to people in, the lead spot. And I usually I would die at the end because I would just run out of gas. But being in the slow heat, I'm like, well, maybe I can compete with those people in the slow heat. So I started off the race, and I was actually leading on the pack the first lap. And then I think I don't know if it was the 600 or the 700. I just hit a brick wall, and I still remember like hitting that brick wall. And I think I pretty much walked in the last 100, and I think everybody passed me. I got 23rd, and I'm pretty sure the 24th place person didn't even finish, because I think I walked that last 100. So I laugh of just being that inexperienced, or that, I don't know if dumb is the right word, but I really had no idea what I was doing. And I think the nerves got to me, and it really was not a great race at state, but it's a pretty fun experience to talk about now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you remember beating that one girl? But you're like,
I don't know if I did. I really don't. Otherwise, she hit a pretty big wall too.
Yeah. And I got to go back a few minutes. You said Ellen Ing had energy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, she was she had great throws, and it was always fun to listen to her stories.
Yeah, we went on mission trips together with John and Holly Lang, and you didn't want to get stuck in the corner of the van next to Ellen, because she was very charismatic, and there'd be an injury or two sitting next to Ellen usually, because she was always talking with her arms and all the things. So lots of good memories with Miss Ellen.
Yep.
So you said you didn't really know how to train, didn't really know how to run distance. What was the difference in that summer leading up to you went out for cross country as a sophomore? Did you kind of get some coaching and a little bit of training tips on how to actually run a long race?
Yeah, I mean, in that summer, I know I put in some more miles. I mean, I say I didn't know how to run distance really as a freshman. I still remember my first track practice as a freshman, and it was to like run down to the Miller's corner and back. And then, and I think that was like 3 miles if we ran that T long road. And I had never ran 3 miles before at one time, before my freshman track season. So I think that's why I say I didn't have the endurance built up yet during my freshman year. I was really just running off adrenaline all my races and my competitiveness, not wanting to lose. But then, so between my freshman year and my sophomore year, I did get some more miles in that summer. I feel like, and I can't always remember because we didn't have the log or whatever, but I think we always tried to hit like the 100-mile mark. So run 100 miles like in the summer. So I think I tried to hit the 100 miles in the summer before my sophomore cross country season.
Nice. And then, like you said earlier, Wes Hancock was with Garner Hayfield for cross country. So when you went out that sophomore year and gave up your volleyball career, what was that like joining up with kids from Garner, both boys and girls, and did you guys go over there every day? Did you go back and forth where you practice? How was that?
Yeah, so for my whole cross country career, we always still went to Garner. I don't think there was quite enough people in Britt for them to come back and forth. I think it was the year after I graduated that they started coming back and forth. But I remember nothing but friendly teammates over there. I was very welcomed right away, and I made some great friendships, even from the Garner teammates. So it was a very positive experience, and I can't speak of how great of experience it was kind of joining those two schools together.
Yeah, and I always appreciate it. So like we're the smaller school, they're the ones with the program. We needed to go with them to have a program, and they called it GHWH. I always appreciated that because a lot of times what happens is the smaller school will kind of just get absorbed and you're just in that program, but we kind of had our own identity, which was nice.
Yeah, and when I was there, I think it was GHWH on all of the schools, but I still wore that Garner Hayfield jersey. I mean, all my stuff has Garner Hayfield all over it. There was no WH on my jersey yet.
Yeah, did that hurt a little bit?
Yeah, but I mean, I got over it, but it definitely, looking back at pictures, I can definitely tell the difference between my cross country and track uniforms.
Anyone give you a hard time about that Garner stuff on your wearing?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore, yeah. So yeah, your sophomore year then, the boys and girls team-wise dominating performance conference. Back then it was the North Iowa Conference. Now we have the top of Iowa. But the NIC, the boys won the team title, as did your girls team. You guys, the girls had a perfect score your sophomore year. Can you explain how cross-country scoring works to the people that maybe aren't in the cross-country world?
Yeah, so it's really, I mean, it's as simple as it can be. It's just you score the top 5 places. So each place is the points that you score. So first place is 1 point, second place is 2 points. And then you score the top 5 on your team. So then that's your score for the team. So getting a perfect score means our top 5 from Garner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We didn't have anyone in between us. So
it was a clean sweep. So you guys
clean
got
sweep, yeah.
15 points, and then Allison Segrist, who was a West Hancock girl, she was homeschooled, but she was from the West Hancock side. She won the title. Hannah Anderson was second, which that was kind of fun to see because Hannah worked with my wife and Pella at the Christian Opportunity Center when my wife and I met. She was a coworker of my wife's, and then she is now married to a football buddy of mine from Central, Jordan Lucian. And then Jordan now comes to our school every year he's the American Fidelity rep, and he comes and sells us different types of insurance. So kind of forgot Hannah was even from Garner. You just kind of forget about that here. So she was second. You were third with a time of 16:27. Embry Aberg was fourth, and Katie Madsen was fifth. Second place as a team was Forest City with 80 points, and North Iowa had 90. And like I said, we had 15 in that perfect score. So what do you remember about the first experience? Paul Nelson was your coach. What do you remember about that first big race you got to run as a sophomore?
Yeah, I mean, I remember Hannah and I would go back and forth a lot. I would just I mean, she was more experienced than I was, being a couple years older than I was. But I mean, I would hang on. I would go out in races with her and hang on as long as I can. And then typically she would have more of a kick than I would. But I do remember running with Hannah a lot, and it was great to be able to run with her in practice for the couple of years. And unfortunately, Allison was always fighting some health conditions a lot her last couple of years of track and cross country. So I vaguely remember her during practices, and I think most of my sophomore season, I don't think she competed a lot until it became like championship season time. So I think even this conference, I think that was one of her first races back, kind of running with our team. But she always was one that you looked up to and knew that someday I hope to be as good as Allison. So
yeah, I vaguely remember that she was not able to run a lot. But I lumped some runners from West Hancock in a group. You, Allison Segrist, and Steph Airy. I did a podcast with Steph about a year or so ago, but you three were like dedicated to your craft, always pretty serious, had a good work ethic, and like I just remember, I was out for track because Coach Sanger said I had to, and so I'd be at practice, and we'd be messing around a little bit. The guys that weren't going to be in meets and winning medals and stuff, we'd be messing around. You could look at the three of you, and it was always business. Like there was always that sense of like, I'm here on a mission. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to get it done type of thing. So I always had a lot of respect for Allison. She hardly said two words to anybody. She was just quiet and, driven, but I always appreciated what she put into her running. So did you guys have a coach per se from Britt that would get you over to practice, or were you responsible for getting yourselves there?
we drove. Yeah, we would just drive. And I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. Like I think I had my school permit, and I think I drove myself to practice to Garner. So
Yeah.
I was pretty young driving a Garner myself. And thinking back of that, I'm not sure. I believe Paul Gunther was out my sophomore year with me. And then I don't remember as much going over to Garner my sophomore year as I remember like my junior, senior year. We had a car full of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the head golf coach at I-35, and our course is 25 minutes away. So I take a vehicle with kids that can't drive, but then everyone else wants to drive themselves over because then they can go out to eat and get a cart and play extra holes. But it's, a lot different than basketball or football when the fields or the gym are just right there on campus. So, so let's move on. Your sophomore year is still here quickly. Cross country, your team, the girls team, won the regional meet and then took 5th at state in Class 3A, which saying anything West Hancock in Class 3A is kind of weird, but we were a 1A school. Garner was a 2A school. Enrollment-wise, we were considered 3A. At the regional meet, you got 9th with a time of 16:10, so you improved 17 seconds from conference to regionals. Segrist was 3rd that season at regionals. At state over in Fort Dodge, where they hold it every year, you were 46th as a sophomore with a time of 16:34. So that's a 24 seconds the other direction that you don't want from regionals. Do you remember why that difference in time? Was it just a harder course? Was it the nerves?
Yeah, I think it was a really cold day. It wasn't really ideal for running. And I think I had no idea what I was doing, right? Like I got there kind of overwhelmed, more just kind of in it, running it, but not knowing how to truly compete at that level yet. So I just kind of got in a pack, tried to run my race, and it was obviously not the best race that I put forward all season.
Yeah, but your first year out and only a sophomore, I mean, that's understandable to a degree. So did you, what were your expectations going into your sophomore year at track in 2005, now that you've ran at state twice in track, ran cross country state? Did you have higher expectations for yourself? Did you learn a little bit more on what you were doing? You said you didn't really know. She's got a kid. So while Lori's doing that, tomorrow morning, Britt West Hancock plays at 10 at the Unidome. against Madrid. So I'm going to be hitting the road about 6:40. So if you are watching this late tonight, make sure you get to the game or can watch it online. So someone
Sorry.
snuck in
Oh yeah, someone's up playing.
and you threatened them to the inch of their life and let them know you're taking away all the things.
Yep.
Good.
Um,
Like I said, my boys have snuck in on a few podcasts over the years, so no biggie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was asking, training wise and expectation wise, did you have higher expectations for yourself going into your sophomore year of track now that you had 2 events at state track and state cross country under your belt?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I really wanted to get down to state again. And then obviously continue to break down or knock down the times of my 1500 and 800. And then that year I think because I ran cross country and had more of the distance experience behind me after the cross country season, I ran the 3000 that year.
Yeah.
So, and I found a lot of I would say local success in the 3000. So there's not a lot of kids that sign up and say, I'm going to run the 3000. So, I mean, I usually place pretty high in that. I mean, I went to win every time, but there wouldn't be that many really competitive girls in that race. So that was kind of my race that year. And then Allison that was her senior year, and she was back a lot of that season. So she ran the 800 and the 1500 quite a bit. And I think that's maybe like the 3000 became my event. And then I ran the 800 and 1500 sometimes. I ran the DMed anchor or 4x8 a little bit, but really that 3000 was what I did then.
You could spread out the points during, those regular season meets a little bit too. That would have been my senior year that spring I graduated. I always crack up about this because it was Coach Sanger's year where he retired from teaching and he had to sit out that track season for his IPers to kick in. And it just about killed the guy to not be at track because he had done that for 40 some years. And some of my buddies would be like, yeah, he was, jokingly, they'd be like, he was like hiding behind the trees, watching, see what's going on or whatever, because he had to stay away. But it's like he was just always wondering what was going on and wanted to be a part of it still. So I know that bugged him a little bit. So
yeah, that was a weird year for the girls track too. So I don't know if you remember, but wasn't at every practice. So he had actually had to step away because his daughter Cameron, I believe, had some health issues and she was a little baby. Mm-hmm. So it was Joe Goodrich. I think he was a social studies teacher. Yeah. Then he was our assistant track coach that year. So he ran a lot of the practices. I think Boozman laid out the plan, but Coach Goodrich ran a lot of the practices. So it was just kind of an odd year.
Yeah,
and then looking at the season, I think we even had a couple meets canceled. It really was just a bad spring.
Yeah. Goodrich came over from Allison Bristow or Green because they combined with Butler. And it was like, we're going to keep one teacher from Green for this subject, but not the one from Allison Bristow. And so I think he got cut. So he drove from Green to Britt every day, which was like 70 miles or something like that. And I think, what did he say? He sold his car and got one of those little Geo Metros that gets like 800 miles per gallon. And he was a good dude. I liked him for government class. Do you remember how long he stayed in Britt?
I don't know if it was just that year. I don't remember him after that year, to be honest.
It was just my senior year, so maybe. So, yeah. So I can't remember exactly. Yeah. So at state track that year, Lori's sophomore year, they tied for 64th in Class 1A. And like she said, she ran the 3000. Placed 18th with a time of 11:42.37. And you already answered my question. I was going to ask why the 3000 and not the 800 and 1500. So do you remember how you did at the conference meet that year? You said locally you had some success. I didn't find anything on that.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I didn't remember right away. But that year I won the 3000 in conference. And interesting enough, I went back and forth. You mentioned Emberly Aberg was a teammate on my cross country team earlier. So she was one of my Garner teammates, and we would go back and forth all track season against each other in that 3,000. So that was kind of an interesting rival that, we're teammates in one season and then opponents next season.
Yeah.
So I think I just like outkicked her actually in the 3,000. So we just won by a couple seconds at the conference meet that year.
So you learned how to finish a race then, is what you're saying?
I guess that one I was able to finish.
Yeah. And then was she a senior that year?
So Emberly's actually my age, so she was a sophomore as well. So
we're moving on to your junior year of cross country, which is 05, fall of 05. So you'd still be teammates at that time. Going into that fall, as a junior, you placed 6th at the conference meet with a time of 16:10. You were 17 seconds better than the season before, so that's good improvement. The team was 2nd behind Forest City. You guys had 56 team points. Forest City had 33. North Iowa was 3rd with 80. John Potter was their cross country coach. I think he still is. He's a guy I got to know pretty well over the years and a fantastic track and cross country coach. So I know they've always were hovering in that top 3 range in a lot of things they did. And they were the smallest conference school. So it was kind of nice to see them do well. At regionals, your junior year, you took 9th. Once again, you were 9th as a sophomore with a 16:10. This season as a junior, you ran a 16:13. You were the sole member of the girls team to make it to state from GHWH. Do you remember the qualifying procedures for like a regional meet? How many girls made it to state from there?
Yeah, so it's a top 10, and then I believe it was the top 3 teams that made it to state. So I just made the individual scoring, placing 9th, because it was just the top 10 that would make it. Unfortunately, that was a really tough and race for a lot of our teams. So I think we were really thinking we could qualify as a team that year. And for some reason, it was in Webster City. I remember the race. For some reason, Emberly Aberg and Nicole Larson, we would all 3 kind of run together. And we were running together during that meet. And for some reason, I don't know if it was 100 yards to go, is both of Emberly and Nikki fell down. They both like passed out before the finish line. So they did not place near as high as they thought they would. And being our 2 and 3 runner, that just killed our team score. So unfortunately, I mean, we didn't qualify for a team that year, but I think if they would have ran the race that they can, we would have been at state that year too, as a team. So
play that woulda, coulda, shoulda game. If they would have not done that, what you guys have probably. So
yeah. And that year I actually got injured. So I think I maybe ran the first 1 or 2 meets, and then I didn't come back until it was conference meet, I think, that I came back on. So I mean, I was not running to where I thought I should have been at. So I think if you look at that year, my times really weren't great, but I remember when I was injured, I don't think we had all the technology or the equipment that there is nowadays, but John Hejlik actually opened up his pool, his indoor pool that he had, and I would go to their pool and work out and try to stay in shape during the season as I was injured. So that was pretty cool.
What caused the injury? Do you remember when that happened? What were you doing?
I think I probably just ran wrong. It was like in my pelvic area. So I think maybe just training on uneven ground and, running on cross country or running on golf courses, uneven surfaces, hills and stuff. My body just probably wasn't used to that. So.
So yeah, you were the only one that made the state that year. The prior year you got 46th. This year you got 69th, and you said you weren't completely healthy, so that probably factored in a little bit. Your time was 16:55 compared to 16:34 as a sophomore. One thing I thought was cool in the paper, you just like, it just wasn't that much fun because you were by yourself, weren't with your teammates. But Paul Nelson, your coach, I also read in the paper, he said you were a very determined runner, one of the most determined runners he's ever had as a coach. So And that goes back to what I said with you, Steph and Allison. It was just like it was business-like mentality is what I always remember. So what was your goal after junior year going into senior year? Because we're going to talk about the drastic jump you made from how you placed at state your junior year to your senior year. What was your goal? What were your expectations going into that last year?
Yeah, so I think just even my junior year of track, things started to just click. Like you said, I mean, I definitely worked hard, and I made sure I worked hard in practice, and every meet I was very competitive, and I hated losing. And I think all that hard work really just started clicking my junior year, and it just mentality and mentally I was there.
If my mom comes in the background of my screen, then we'll really get rolling here. But is that the 3-year-old? Yeah. We should have placed bets on this. I would have.
I know, I knew it was gonna happen, right? I just knew it.
So what, your husband's on business or on a trip or something right now?
Yeah, you know, he's actually hunting. Isn't that lucky?
You should have just said, yeah, he's on a business trip. That would have
Yep,
sounded.
I should have. He's gonna wish I told everyone that.
So just throw some snacks at him. He'll be fine. Yeah. So we're gonna hit your junior and senior year of track because I want to end this with your senior year cross country.
Okay.
Junior year track was your best season yet. You ran in 3 events at state. D-Med was 15th with a 4:27.15. You were back in the 1500 that year. You got 9th. So refresh my memory. Did they give medals to the top 8 back then, or was it still the top 6?
It was the top 8.
So you were just outside the medal. You ran a 5 even. In the 3000, you picked up your first state medal. You got 8th. So I literally could have read 2 more lines and I would have answered my own question. You got 8th with a time of 10:56.01. That was 46 seconds faster than your time as a sophomore that year at state. And then your senior year, I'm calling your career as a runner a Hall of Fame career because the amount of times you ran at state, what you did in cross country, how many times you ran at state, pretty impressive. But your senior year, 07, you ran in the 4x8, the 800, the 1500, and the 3000. That's a lot of laps around the track down at Drake. What do you remember about that senior year getting to participate in 4 events?
Yeah, so I just remember my senior year. I mean, I think I was in one of the best shape that I had been in ever, and things were just clicking. And you know, I won a lot of my races that I was in for the 3000 and the 1500. And I had that kind of, I mean, as all athletes, you kind of just start having that little edge that, hey, I'm better than them, and I'm gonna win. Mom.
Bring him on. Put him on screen. Have him make an appearance.
It's part of like this whole work from home thing too, right? Like I've been in conference meetings and my little one's like all over me, and it's like, oh, I'll just keep talking. It's okay.
Yeah, put him on screen. He'll be fine.
Oh, but yeah. So my senior year, I think it was a great year, and it was a lot of fun. I just remember having a lot of fun. My senior year, we had a great group of girls out. Everybody worked hard in practice and truly gave it all in there at meets. So I just remember my senior year, I think we won conference that year as a team. And then we also won regionals that year as a team for the girls. And then also the boys. So my senior year, the boys also had a really strong team. They actually won state my senior year. So that was really fun to experience that kind of with them as state's co-ed. So we were right there with them as they won state. I remember, you know, at the start of my senior year, I had no idea what I could accomplish. But as I kept running, my time just kept shaving off. And I actually qualified for the 1500 and the 3000 for Drake that year and got to run at Drake. And really, I was probably running better at Drake than I did at state. I think at state, my legs were worn out from just running so much that season that my legs were worn out. So I think I was like 8th and 9th and the 15 and the 3000 at Drake that year. So that was my PR, and my 1500 came from Drake. But I do remember districts. My senior year was a lot of fun because that was at Britt, actually. We ran it at home, and it was a Saturday. And I started off running the 3000, ran the 4x8, then we ran the 800 open, and then ended with the 1500. And I won all of those. So that was just a really fun last hurrah, kind of as a senior, knowing that this is my last time running on my home track. And then getting to state, I still remember that 3000 race pretty vividly. Just running with I think you had said the Dinsdale girls.
One of them,
running, and then there was, so Brooke Dinsdale, and then Daisha Bushman. She was from Valley of Elgin. She was also a really good runner. Ran at Liberty, so another D1 school after college. So I mean, I ran with them, and we kind of ran as a pack, and then they just kind of let go. I just kind of fell back the last lap. So they ended up out kicking me again, which is a very common thing in my running career. But after that race, I PR'd by a couple seconds. But after that race, it was maybe a half hour. Then I backed up. I did the 4x8, and I can't remember. I think you said what we placed on the 4x8. But
yeah, I got it on here somewhere. 11th was your place, but 10:07.
Yeah, so I don't think, but I think after that race, my legs really did not feel good. And I still remember that trying to run that 1500 and 800 at state, it just, my legs were done. I had a lot of fun the whole season, but really state track my senior year on that Saturday for the 800 and 1500, that really was just giving it what I could, gutting it out. But sometimes it's not your day, right? So
but you still got a medal out of the 1500. You got 6th.
Yeah.
But that you were talking about the boys won state that year, they won it the next year. I went down to watch that. One to watch West Hancock, watch you guys. But those Dinsdale girls, and then they had that Sarah Stokes girl. Just like that's what people to a degree came to watch. Those girls were just phenomenal. So there's no shame in not beating one of those girls. What was your mindset going against her? Did you feel like you had a chance to pull off the upset, or are you just hoping to stay close?
I was just hoping to stay close, honestly. I knew they were at an elite level. They went and ran at, I believe it was Nebraska, so they're definitely D1 athletes. I was honored to be able to run with them as long as I was. There's just, that's the interesting part about sports is you get some years where you get lucky and it's your year, and then other sports where there's some really good teams and you maybe can't compete with them as much. And I think the Class 1A that year and for multiple years was really tough. I think if I was in Class 2A, I know Ashley Miller was a really good runner too. But I was just honored to be able to run with them.
Yeah, that Stokes girl, she was young that year. 09 was her senior year. I'll never forget. North Iowa Buffalo Center had that really good group of girls. Janie Penning was the girl. She's my parents' neighbor. Her parents are. And North Iowa won the 4x1, won the 4x2, won the 4x4, and Janie got second in the 100. And they lost the state title by 2 points because that Stokes girl won 4 state championships, and she scored all their points in 4 events. I'll never forget that. That was just nuts. So, so your track coach all those years was Chuck Boozman. I believe he left the year after you. Does that sound right? Was it like 08 he left for Waverly?
Yeah, it may have been the year after that. But okay. It might have been just the year after. Yeah, so I definitely the Boozman, I would say even Mr. Mueller era was kind of my high school career. They were both there during my high school career.
Was Fink your coach at all, or was he done coaching by?
So I just missed Fink. So definitely the athletes that I ran with, they were all coached by Dave Fink, and they carried that on to practice. And I know Boozman carried a lot of what he did as coach from Fink too. I mean, I will tell you that I don't think I realized how blessed we were and how structured of a track program we had. You know, Boozman, we came back, and as I was looking through stuff, we had a binder of stuff. We had like, hey, these are your state track cutoffs from the year before. These are where your goals need to be. This is what the lineup is for districts this year. This is the top 10 of all of our things from West Hancock. Here's our records for the year. And then it was like motivational quotes, like, and then we were structured. We had set practice schedules, set warm-ups. I mean, we had a very structured track program. And I don't think a lot of small schools had that. So, I mean, I think we were very, very blessed with the program that we had.
Yeah, and Boozman was one of my football coaches, and he's sponsoring the podcast tonight. So we're not just talking about him because he gave a little money to the Legacy Fund, but have a lot of time for Chuck Boozman and always respected what he did. You talked about winning that regional championship. The girls program from like 2001 to 2008, I think won like 6 regional championships or something like that, and placed in the top 10 a couple times at state. So it was a good run of track for the girls program.
Yeah, we always had competitive relays. You know, even the sprinters, they were always competitive in all of their relays. So
yeah, and I want to get to your last season of cross country here. Save the best for last. That would have been fall of 06. You won the North Iowa Conference title with a time of 15:53. You got second at the regional meet with a 15:52. And then you in class 3A at state went from 46th to 69th to second. You were the state runner-up as a senior with a time of 15:06. How do you go 46 seconds better than the regional race the week before and 100 seconds better than your state race your junior year? What was the difference there?
yeah, so I mean, I think times across country are really hard to compare just across the different courses. I mean, it's probably similar to golf. You know, it just depends your hills or whatever. Maybe they're a little shorter or longer, or the day, right? The weather wise. But I think we had talked about my junior year, I was injured a lot that season. So the times I had for state cross country were not great and probably not what I could have done or wanted to be at. And then even I was looking back at that, you know, getting second at regionals. I was looking back at some articles on that, and I think I had a lot of nerves that meet and was just ready to go. And I went out way too fast. I think it said my first mile was like 5:40, and it should be like at 6 minutes, or usually was it like a 6-minute first mile. So I think I just died in the regional meet, and I got passed by a really good runner from, I think it's Elcar. I think it was a Brittany Ross, if I remember right. But she ran a better race than I did that day, and it really, my time reflected just going out too fast and running out of gas, really. So
yeah. In that race, your senior year at state, Cedar Rapids Xavier's Megan Nelson ran a 14:48 to your 15:06. So she was about 20 seconds ahead of you, but you were about 20 seconds better than the girl who got third. One thing I put in my notes, just kind of fun, that a girl from rural Britt, Iowa raced against girls from like Cedar Rapids and some of those bigger schools because we were, like I said, we were 3A because of the agreement with Garner. So how'd you feel after that, getting second? What kind of pride did you take from being the state runner-up?
Yeah, I mean, I will honestly tell you that was I ran one of my best races at state track that year, and that, you know, you just hope as an athlete that that's what happens at a state meet, is that you perform at your best. And I just got lucky enough that, you know, I went out and I ran the pace I wanted to the first mile, and that put me right in the pack to run with the top of the pack. And I just remember all of a sudden I was running my pace that I knew I needed to run, and I looked around me and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm like leading this. Like, what is going on? I didn't know I was going to be up here because I had never been in that place at state track or straight cross country before. Like you said, I think my junior year is 69. So I was just running with girls in my junior year. So, I mean, I remember that thought going through my mind, like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I mean, I jokingly told one of our teammates when we were warming up that I'd get a tattoo if I won the meet. Like, it's not going to happen, right? Like, I wasn't competing for the state title that year. I was competing to medal. And then I found myself in that middle of the race leading or being in that lead pack. So I mean, just like every other race that I was in, ran as hard as I could to give it my all. Let the competitiveness come out, and Megan pulled away kind of at the finish line, and she obviously had a really good kick and was very talented. But to get second place, I would say a lot of people are disappointed because they really want that championship and have a state title. But for where I was at, I was over the moon excited to be a runner-up in the runner-up position. So it was a great.
You said you're hoping the medal,
career.
so you would have been happy with 8th, 9th, 10th place,
Yeah.
probably.
Yep.
Did you ever want to look back and see how far of a lead you had from second to third, or were you trained by then?
Oh no, you definitely. I mean, yeah, you just try to. I always made it feel like there's somebody riding your shoulder, right? Like they're right there. You got to kick it because they're gonna pass you. And as I said multiple times, I got passed a lot at the end, so I always felt like there was somebody coming on right on my shoulder and could pass me at any minute. So
yeah. Before we wrap this up, non-sports related, but who are some of the teachers besides your coaches? Who are some of the teachers at West Hancock that influenced you? I didn't put this in the notes. I'm throwing you out.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, like I said, I really I feel like, Mr. Muller was a teacher of mine, and then he became a principal, and I really have a ton of respect for Mr. Muller and Mr. Boozman. He was obviously one of my teachers, but then a coach, and I've stayed in touch with Boozman kind of as he went to Waverly. I was at Wartburg at the same time, so we stayed in touch a little bit then too. And then, I mean, Mrs. Sanger had a huge impact on my high school career. So I think I took every accounting class I could, and I think I took accounting 3, and it was during another class that she had, and we just independently did our accounting 3 class. I mean, the way she touched so many people in her time that she taught is just amazing. And I mean, she definitely helped me enjoy accounting, and I would say that's where I'm at today, and it's really because of Mrs. Sanger. So she has definitely a special place in my heart.
And then I don't know if I want to talk about this, but you already mentioned that college in Waverly. As a central guy, this hurts a little bit, but talk about your experiences running at Wartburg.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, so I know Kevin Sanger was still at Central when I was still in high school, and I can't remember if he made that switch while I was still in college, but Dick Keith was actually our superintendent when I was in high school. I don't remember if he was in there.
No, but I remember him.
Yeah, so his sons actually, one of them coached at Wartburg, and one was running at Wartburg. And we also went for cross country before my senior year. We went down to the cross country camp that summer at Wartburg, and I truly just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the coach, and it was just a really at-home fit for me. So I went to Wartburg, unlike a lot of West Hancock people, but I truly enjoyed my time at Wartburg, and they have a very competitive cross country and track season or team. So my cross country season, we qualified as a team all 4 years, and I ran at nationals all 4 years there.
What was the best you did individually?
Yeah, so my senior, I actually was All-American, and I think I was like 27th. I think the top 35 were All-American. So my senior year, I was an All-American cross country. And then in track, I actually qualified for the outdoor 5K my senior year as well, and got 5th, and so I was an All-American in the 5K as well.
Nice.
So yeah, it was very enjoyable. I cherish my high school and college running careers very much.
Again, Hall of Fame resume. You'll be getting a call from me sometime down the road for getting inducted, because all state, state runner-up, state medals in high school, All-American, and 2 college events. Pretty impressive. So minus that whole Wartburg thing, but yeah. And the funny thing is, I just got off the phone with Kevin Sanger a couple hours ago. We were talking about tomorrow's game, and asked if he was going and if he's gonna bring his mom, and he said no, he's got too much at work going on. And I called a fair weather fan, and Mrs. Sanger said she was only gonna go if he went. And I said, wow, that company is all you want, Miss Sanger, just talking to Kevin and just giving him a hard time. So any chance I can give Kevin a hard time, I'll take it. So yeah, so always good stuff. So we're gonna wrap this up, because who knows what your 3-year-old's doing behind us or on the other side of that door. So but I appreciate it. I have 17 sponsors again. You can see them on my screen. Thanks to all those sponsors for giving to the Legacy Fund. Hopefully a lot of that sponsorship money is going to go towards plaques and stuff for the team if they win tomorrow and go to the championship game again. So my next 5 podcasts coming up in the next month or so, I have Amber Hejlik, Amber Evans now, state title winning quarterbacks. That would be Jim Deemer, Chad Klein, Logan Lear, Braden Lear, and Mitchell Smith. And then I'll have Scott VanDusseldorp, Gerardo Ibarra, and Jordan Weiland are my next 5 episodes. And also, if we win the game tomorrow, Jay Kevin and DC Moore and I are going to do a championship game preview. So we'll do that Sunday night as well. So, Lori, I always leave this last part open to my guests. If you forgot anything, want to throw any shout outs, anything you want to throw out there before you go check on the 3-year-old?
So maybe he'll fall asleep here. I just want to thank all of my coaches that I had. I mean, I think I said Chuck Boozman was a huge part of my running career. Paul Nelson was also a great cross country coach. And then my senior year cross country, I also had Coach Short from Garner, and he really put a new perspective on running too for me, and had some great new ideas and some energy. So I just truly cherish some great coaches in my running career, as I was really I didn't know how to run, right? Like, I was a very coachable kid, but I didn't know what to do. So I cherish those. And it is amazing being from a small school as West Hancock, of how many athletes have really come out of there. And I mean, I was an athlete in high school with Sarah Swanson, who was a great athlete. And, as our class, we had some good athletes. We had Emily Pritchard and Bree Lushin. We were all very competitive girls. And then it's been amazing to watch even the class below me. I always think of like Molly Swenson and Megan Patterson, and how that group, they really came together their senior year and had a great basketball season. And how Sonia's has really taken that basketball team and developed them into a really powerhouse. So it's always fun. I know I moved away and I don't get back to a lot of sporting events anymore, but I sure follow them. And it's always fun to watch West Hancock be in the news and have some really good teams. So
I've always said that's the difference between us and a lot of other schools, is a lot of people, they leave their school and they don't care what happens athletic wise. And
isn't that,
we can have 5,000-6,000 people watching the live stream at a football for a Friday night football game, and a couple thousand for basketball. Wrestling still has a big following. People care still. So I always think that's big difference between us and a lot of other places. So
yeah. And I mean, we grew up caring about that stuff, right? Like, we went to the sporting events. We really followed those teams. And I think it just carries with us that we still care of how our high school's doing.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of, again, I mentioned a few times, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., if you're watching this late tonight or on the way to Cedar Falls, West Hancock plays Madrid in the state semifinals. If we win that game, it'll be our 10th state championship game appearance, which is just a mind-blowing number for a small school. So get out to the game if you can. All right, Lori, well, I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the podcast with me, and it was good to see you. It's been a while, so.
Yeah, we're still young. It's only been a couple of years.
Yeah, we're not almost, we don't have to round up to 40. We do, but we don't have to do that, so. All right.
Yeah, go Eagles. Big game tomorrow.
Go Eagles. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.